Welcome to the Dog Bark Society. This is where we go over biblical text. Today, we're going to be going over the very first portion of Genesis out of the, I don't know if you see it, NIV Study Bible. It is by the International Bible Society, and this one's copyright is of 1995. The thing I like about this one is that it brings in a lot of other aspects of recent archaeological digs, studies, and finds that kind of like hook into things of the Bible. But then again, I also find that this one is also very misleading and driven by whichever entities or bodies of people want to persuade you their way, as with each and every, which is okay. I'm not saying that's not. I'm not making fun of that either. I have noticed that in this one, some of the passages have been shortened. There seems to be some things missing that I find in older Bibles that seem to have more pieces that are being deemed unnecessary or whatever, but drastically change one's interpretation or one's potential imagination. So we'll start with this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Now let's go back and think about that a little bit. There's lots of interpretations when it comes to the creation story, the Big Bang Theory, alien abductions. So, if you would, I would like you to open your mind to yet another possibility that does allow, still for the Big Bang Theory, the creation story, and aliens. Now, let's take this interpretation and let's say that although this is considered Mosaic text or written by Moses, but what if the entity that was speaking to Moses was a different level deity than that of God? And let's say that this was a story that they were told and that they were passing it down. So let's go again. And this time I'll go a little bit slower, and I'm going to make some stops and some adjustments. This may make a wonderful movie. In the beginning, the greatest of deities created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Now, let's think about that very first paragraph. In the beginning, the greatest of deities created the heavens and the earth. Big Bang. Now the earth was formless and empty. Okay, so we got a workstation. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. God created darkness. His presence cast a shadow. Or hers, or its, or, remember, we got Big Bang Theory here going on. So, well, as far as we know. God could be taking a sneeze. God could be blowing. God could be, wanking one off. God could be doing a multitude of different things. He could be flushing the toilet for all we know, over the surface of the deep. And the spirit of the greatest of deities was hovering over the waters. Now, if you're making a stew and you're going to pour it out, Big Bang Theory, and you're going to create all that is that we know thus far, well, that kind of makes sense. Now, if you could get outside the paradox of what everybody is arguing between the creation theory, the Big Bang Theory, many other creation theories, well, you never know, right? But this could be a good movie. And the greatest of deities said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now wait a second. This is also before the stars were created, before the sun was created. So we're talking about the greatest of deities here, right? The creator, the supreme ruler of the universe, the Big Bang hole. Okay. Now, the interesting thing is, it said, and the greatest of deities said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now, here's your question again. Back to this. It hasn't, the greatest of deities, has not spoken about creating the stars, has not spoken about creating the sun, has not spoken about creating any other form of illumination of thus what humanly is comparable of understanding. All right. So that's very interesting, okay? So now, here's a question. Did God step to the side? Did God peel back from his workstation, her workstation, its workstation? The greatest of deities, right? Is the Big Bang, the giant swirly hole, and God got up off the toilet? Is the universe the cervix of God's wife? Are we on her little ovaries? Good questions, right? We have no clue. Remember, the earth has not even been formed yet. Okay? In the beginning, In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. Now we have a he here. This could be a masculine orientation depicted by the control that was necessary for the male hierarchy during the writer's period of time. At this point, nobody has seen God, so there's no witness to God's physical being. So we don't actually know if that's male or female, or any sexual orientation at all. It could be not a hermaphrodite, but asexual. Okay, we don't know, right? We have no comprehension of this part or this point because there's no other creation yet. I mean, the earth isn't even formed. Okay, so if one needed to be able to find it more acceptable, you could take and just kind of that he part right there. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to be anything, okay? But what I am saying, though, is if there's not a physical witness to the presence of God at this time, right, then this could be what is considered oh, writer's privilege or whatever. It's got a term for it. But anyways, so, geez, I need to work out more. I feel getting fat living in this car. Oy. All right, so let's go back again. In the beginning, the greatest of deities created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Now here, check this out. Another interesting thing. So, we're going to go from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. Okay? The greatest of deities created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. God created the heavens and the earth. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the Spirit of God, the greatest of deities, was hovering over the waters. So if you're a Big Bang theorist, those waters, those celestial waters, those cosmic waters coming out of that hole, well, the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So if you want to go super extraterrestrial with it, if you must, then you better find your ass away outside that fucking hole. So you better get along with Elon Musk, get onto Mars, get off of Mars, and figure out how to travel all the way to that motherfucker and see what's on the other side. Okay? Because a being, an entity, if you will, okay, that is that vast, that big, to pour, back up, yeah, to pour out the waters into this workstation, okay, into this ovary of a universe, into God's wife, right, hovering over the waters. The earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. So you would be talking about billions and trillions of years ago, okay? Billions and trillions of years ago, coming out this fucking hole, right? So, like, you could imagine it all kinds of ways. You could imagine it as a space station out there. You could imagine it as God out there. You could imagine it as... But it's just, like, here's the coolest thing of it all, okay? No matter how infinitesimally small, granule of sand we are in comparison to the entity that's on the outside of that, okay? It's still just the spirit of it. It's not even close to the entity of it. So as far as we know, it could be a drop of sweat off the brow of God, creating this cosmic universe. Seriously. Okay? I mean, keep imagining. Just keep fucking imagining. Don't stop imagining. My imagination is probably not even close to as cool as it could be, right? But it still leaves so much room, because whatever entity that entity spoke to then get the story to us, wow. Fucking wow. Okay? So in the second paragraph, and the greatest of deities said, "Let there be light." So I'm going to step away from this big fucking hole, cascading all of this out, right? And you're going to be able to see, the light on the other side of this hole, okay? Whether it's a darkness that that we're able to capture at this point, or if it's a illuminating light just dumping stars and cosmic shit into this universe, in this galaxy universe, whatever you want to talk about, the biggest portion of it all, right? And if you flat earthers, well, there you go. It's pouring waters. So, I mean, it could be flat, it could be round, it could be fucking parallel ding-dong dick shape with testicles. Okay, anyways, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying, you cannot limit your imagination on this, man. I mean, so here's, okay, so we're going to bounce, we were bouncing from paragraph 1 to paragraph 2. God saw that the light was good. God saw that the light was good. He separated the light from the darkness. Now, here's your question, okay? On any level that you think about this, on any level, okay, that you think about this, it creates a duality. 2 parts, right there, okay? 2 parts. Now, from my understanding of this, okay, the greatest of deities is calling themselves the darkness in the end, okay? And that when they remove themselves from the creation for a moment to bring light, that it deems as good also, is he called the light day. God, not he, not she at this point. There is, oh yeah, it does say, God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. Now again, we're going to go back up to paragraph 1. God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Okay? So at this point, like, you know, this could be, like, no matter how good and how grand, you know, God is, no matter what name you want to give God, while in midst creation, there is a shadow that's casted over. Okay? Now, that shadow is called darkness, right? So while at work, he's deeming it's darkness. While he's away from working, it's deemed to be light. Now here's the very interesting thing though about paragraph 2, okay? This is where it gets really tricky on the human clock side, okay? So just really open your head around this. Try not to understand what it is that I'm trying to explain to you. Like I said, again, this could be a great movie, okay? God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called the night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Now, let's go back and read these 2 paragraphs one more time, and I'm going to read it to you just a little bit differently. And then I want to go to this time clock period that I want to try and explain, because this becomes very interesting when you're trying to look at this on a 24-hour human-oriented schedule. It doesn't make sense, okay? But this again goes to show you that whatever entity was explaining this story to us had to be at a different understanding of time than ours. So our time wraps around 24 hours in a day, 365 days around the sun, and that equals a year. This entity, its quote-unquote 24-hour period, 365 to equal a year, happens so much slower than ours. Okay? So, if we're this tiny gear doing 900 RPMs, and they're a gear, and they're only doing 2 RPMs to our 900, And then there's a series of events of creation. Okay? So, here we go. In the beginning, the greatest of deities created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the spirit of the greatest of deities was hovering over the waters. And the greatest of deities said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And the greatest of deities saw that the light was good. And he separated the light from the darkness. The greatest of deities called the light day, and the darkness called night. There was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Now, evening and morning, the first day. So, okay, God saw that the light was good and separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So, if you think about this, if the light is called day, and there was evening and morning the first day, that means while on Earth we should have had 12 hours a day light and 12 hours of night without light. There was a period of time when there was both night and day in a 12-hour period. Okay? Now, if you reverse this also, there was a 24-hour period in 12 hours. Right? Now, if you take this even further, okay, God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So during the light, there was morning and night. Okay? So some people take this as it was the first 24-hour period the Earth spun in a circle. This could be a partial reference towards the catastrophic energy that it takes to start forming a mass or a nuclei or Earth's core. Now this is before any topography, okay? This could be as similarly explained as insemination of an egg, okay? So at this point, when you think about it, we have no plausible construct in our human relation because of the mechanics of time instilled in us to really understand trillions of years and what is supposed to happen so quickly. Although there are a multitude of creation alternatives and also accepted forms already of the creation story, this could just make a very good movie. But it is something that I believe is very good for myself and maybe for others in their life, in their sobriety, in coming more one with God's creation on all multiple levels. I thoroughly enjoy reading the book because it helps keep my mental health better. because it creates creative lines of thought process, as long as I try not to limit myself to what is or is not. There are many things in the Bible that I don't really do jive with, because anyways, I'm not into, like, you know, all the segregation. We're one people. So but it's one of the reasons why I like some of the very beginning of the Bible a lot. And, you know, Nog and God and Jesus and many other spirits of the Bible, and those that still exist today that aren't in the book of the Bible, because we are this far ahead of when the Bible was written, and so there have been more people and souls that can help direct you into the other areas of what to read, and you know, as well as like pastors and preachers and stuff. There was a time that, like, there was areas of the Bible that Nog just didn't want me to read, and it didn't matter what Bible I had, he would chew that area of the Bible out, and I was had to focus on reading certain things, you know. And I kind of started to really, you know, you can't always think that you get something off the first reading. You really can't. Like, so, but anyways, for one more time, this is just the first two paragraphs. This is Genesis 1 through 5. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness got called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. The next one, we will be choosing a different Bible. We'll read the first two paragraphs again, and see if there's any difference. Have a wonderful evening, folks.